What's up, gangsters? How about 17 minutes of random? Okay, here we go with some random, but before I get into that, because I'm likely to be interrupted by loud noises, like that right there, and I know I've mentioned several times to you guys that my life is chaos right now, and here is part of the reason why. You can see all of that construction going on outside the window of my little studio space. And what's happening there is that I finally decided to just go ahead and purchase my family farmhouse that I grew up in, and I'm renovating. And part of that is going to be a sweet new expanded studio space for me. But that's why my life is so chaotic. Anyway, I have continued to work on my foil experiments for that project, for the Edward Mustang, but I don't really have anything to show you on that right now because I'm kind of in between experiments. I have been using this stuff sprayed on to foil, and I get a really nice even coat of glue, far better I think than you could ever expect from brushing it on. But I am still getting texture. It's really frustrating because when I do it, and you can see this is the foil here that I'm using. You can see how nice and even my coat of adhesive is. I mean, that looks fantastic. But I'm still getting texture, a real micro texture, and it's frustrating because I do all the burnishing and sanding and polishing and everything looks amazing until I turn it at just the right angle and I have a grainy texture that it just not is going to be acceptable. And I'm considering the possibility that it could be some of the molded in texture showing through. You can see on this part that it does have a slight grain to it, and I didn't think that was contributing, but maybe it is. I also, just to see how it was going, there you can see the grain right there. To see how it was going, I experimented a little bit with bare metal foil last week, just as a reminder of why it seems like all of the foil gurus shy away from it for stuff like, doing an aircraft. Everybody loves it for doing detail on model cars, but doing a whole aircraft surface is completely different. Anyway, an interesting discussion popped up in SMCG because I posted a photo where I got really bad texture on the stuff, and I was like, yeah, see, this will happen even with bare metal foil, and this is one of the reasons why I don't like to use it. And some guys popped up and said, wait a minute, your adhesive has gone bad. And I'm like, what? It's super sticky. How is that adhesive going bad? Shouldn't it be less sticky? And they were like, no, and maybe that's the reason that you're getting this horrible texture that you can see in this photo right here. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I even did a double check where I sanded and polished the shit out of the test piece and still had texture. So since these guys were insisting that it could be an issue with the adhesive going bad, my foil, my bare metal foil, is admittedly 5 years old. So it's certainly had plenty of time to go bad if that is in fact a thing. And so, because I always like to check my assumptions, I just got in some brand new bare metal foil, 2 different sheets of it. So we'll try that. Another thing that I ordered while I was at it, because the BMF guy is also the Expert's Choice Decal Paper guy, and I've been a little skeptical because people claim that it is in fact the Expert's Choice, and that it's amazing, but every time I get somebody else's recommendation of decal paper, when I look on the back of it, it's got the World Paper brand name stamped all over the back of it. And so I'm kind of like, well, they must be like the supplier for the world, and this is probably no different. Well, lo and behold, when I opened this up, the back of the sheets of decal paper is blank. So maybe that is, it is in fact its own thing. And so I don't have any use for it immediately, but at some point I'll get around to testing that out and see how it works. Something else that I've been experimenting with on my foil is you can see it's stuck over here in my paint booth, and what's happening there is that it is the foil is stuck sort of to the non-sticky backing sheet from a sheet of vinyl masking film, because I thought, hey, what a great way to keep the film healthy while I wait to use it. And I had read about that on the good old interwebs and thought, what a genius idea. Now, the same guy who made that suggestion told me that he's been using a laminating machine, and he's just basically brushing his adhesive on the foil and then using the laminating machine where the heat makes it into a uniform film thickness. So that box right down there, yep, I bought a laminating machine for like 35 bucks. Amazon just makes this stuff way too easy. So I'm gonna try that out. And I bought also, while I was at it, a pack of non-sticky paper, sticker paper that I can peel the label paper off of and have just the non-sticky backing. So we'll see how that goes. I've also been experimenting with yet another foil application method. Some of you guys may have seen a B24 Liberator going around Facebook. That's amazing. I spent a bunch of time on a video chat with that guy. He's from Argentina. His name is Osvaldo Vigiani, and he's a super nice guy. And he is doing his foil in a completely different way. He basically puts the glue on and squeegees and burnishes the foil on there all at the same time. And it's a completely different deal. I've tried it using this same glue. Didn't work. The glue never cured. Tried it with this stuff, because he says he's just using regular old PVA. Didn't work, did not stick hardly at all, which is just further proof that just because they say they're both PVA, it's kind of like acrylic paint. Doesn't mean the actual recipe is anything like the same. He's using Zap Formula 560 PVA canopy glue, so I ordered some of that, gonna test it out. Also got this thing in because we've had some discussion on SMCG about how mineral spirits will embrittle styrene in particular and cause the joints in these things to fracture. And I finally just decided, you know what, I get one of these kits for like 10 bucks. I'm gonna see if I can duplicate that problem and see if maybe I can come up with some solutions. I don't know. That may be silly, but you know me, I cannot resist experimenting with stuff. So that's that. What I am building and working on, continuing to work on, is my P40 Warhawk cockpit project, and that has been going pretty well. I showed you guys the seats. I got in another seat. Where is it? It's not in there. Oh, back here. And this is pretty cool. Warwick Gresswell sent me a care package, and part of what's in that is he ran some of my seat files on his Formlabs Form 3, which, if you're not familiar, is kind of a mid-range SLA machine. It costs about 10 times what an Anycubic Photon costs, so about $3,500 bucks. I'm not going to get into all the details of how it works differently, but the results are, predictably better. You can kind of see some of the differences here. This is not the best orientation off of the frozen Sonic Mini 4K that these were run on, but I wanted it to be apples to apples, and you can see maybe, whereas this one has some build layer lines in there. Get some more light here. This has got some build layer lines in there. You can see them best on that gusset there, maybe, if you'll be able to see them at all. Anyway, they're there, and there's some patterning on the back here that you can see. Anyway, it's really hard to tell without any primer on it, but this thing is amazing. It's just all around a little bit crisper and better. You can see the translucency of the material because it's so thin. This thing is pretty impressive, and I really appreciate that Warwick sent me that. He sent me a whole huge care package, and I'm going to show you some more stuff out of that here in a second. But I also have other parts that have been run on the Sonic Mini 4K. The yoke there for the control stick, it's a little comically large. If I had time, I'd go back and shrink that thing down by about 20%. But that's one of those things where, it looks good in CAD, but you can't really tell how it's going to look in the actual application until you glue it in there. And so it kind of is what it is. It's not bad enough that I really feel like I have to change it out. So it's all glued in there. That throttle quadrant right there looks pretty dope. I'm really stoked about the way those slots came out. And then you can see this thing right here is the cowl flap actuator assembly. And that's a pretty cool part. That was fun to do up in CAD. Those little teeth came out really good. I mean, that is just a super, super impressive example of what is possible with a $300 resin SLA machine. Again, these are off of a frozen Sonic Mini 4K, which is the latest and greatest thing from Frozen. So I am just really happy about that and the way that all this whole cockpit thing is turning out. You'll notice that I've got some black super glue on here. Guys, I despise super glue. I hate the stuff. If masking fluid is the edible panties of the modeling world, super glue is the Trojan condom. Because it's one of those things where you just have no choice. You got to use it, but it sucks, right? However, I am really warming up to this black rubberized CA. This stuff is really proving to be pretty good. It is, you don't get a dramatically greater amount of time before it sets up to move parts around, and I have found that out the hard way, but it is a little bit better. What you do get is it sands a little easier once it's cured, and it cleans up a little easier. So if you've got excess, like I had some around the base of that control yoke, I needed to clean up and get out of that, those panel lines and rivets. And I use this this Great Plains Pro CA debonder, and it's fantastic. And this stuff seems to clean up a little easier. So again, consider it the ultra thin sheepskin condom of the scale modeling world. If you got to use it, at least it feels better, right? Anyway, let me get into the rest of this. This is kind of going to be a little bit of some tool stuff. I showed you guys in my last random these Mozart knives that Patrick Perales sent me that he's thinking about carrying at Andy's Hobby headquarters. And I already told him this. I'm not a huge fan. The grip on this one is pretty good. I like it. I like the way the blades are held in there, but their blades are just not super sharp. They just don't even seem as sharp as a normal X-Acto number 11 blade from Excel. But by far, the most offensive thing about this is it tastes terrible. And you're like, what? Yeah, because of my clumsy hands, I hold things in my teeth a lot, and I don't know what this thermoplastic elastomer is, but it tastes nasty. Not good. This is the other one, and I'm not a fan of this handle shape. It's just, I don't know, these flat style scalpel knife blade, hand knife, whatever. I'm so traumatized by using it that I can't even talk. Yeah, not a fan of those. That was the sound of it going in the trash can. Now here is a bunch of cool stuff that I got from Warwick. So he's working for Hearns Hobbies now, which is in Melbourne, Australia, and he is bringing his considerable talents to their business. He's a super good model maker, very creative guy, and has been doing a lot of really good stuff in 3D CAD, and they're offering these things as products. And this is cool stuff. Like, look at this. This is a set of wooden pallets, 1/35th scale, I guess. That is super dope. And then all of these are fittings that are, basically in the same vein as what Tom Annis is doing, but quite a bit larger. So not really competing with Tom, because these are a scale that is more suitable for Gundam and car model guys. But these are just fantastic. And again, this is the level of detail and crispness that you get out of a $3,500 SLA machine. Just really, really fantastic stuff. These again are all off of the Formlabs Form 3, so that is super good stuff. He also sent me a bunch of really neat tools that I'm going to be checking out and using in the coming weeks, especially these. He's designed this whole integrated packaging look, which I love this. He's a graphic designer by trade and just does really, really nice stuff. You can see his talent. The 9 Steps brand name is pretty cool. Apparently Hearns is in a basement and it has 9 stairs going down to it, so 9 steps. And they are private labeling a bunch of cool stuff that I'm going to be checking out. Sanding blocks, nippers, tweezers, all of it just looks really good, and I'm looking forward to using it. So I'll let you guys know how that goes. And that is 16 and a half minutes of random. So that's all. Time to go. Oh crap, of course, there's one more important thing that I forgot to tell you guys about. Everybody's been talking about how Tamiya's airbrush cleaner may in fact be the same stuff as Tamiya Extra Thin. And it is. I've seen the MSDS sheets, and as far as anybody can tell, they are the same. This smells pretty much exactly like Extra Thin to me. I've used it in a couple of places, and it performs just like Extra Thin. So that's a pretty hot tip. I'm a little surprised that Tamiya would do this, because once this really gets around, I can't imagine that sales of Extra Thin are not going to crash, because by quick calculation, this is about 4 times cheaper. So there you go. That's definitely a tip worth knowing about. And now that really is enough. So buy again.